All right, we are on to day 9 of the Advent calendar created by Kiirsti Owen. Before I jump into today's lesson, I wanted to just mention one thing I forgot about yesterday, which is that reading in this data, it's really critical that you have your working directory set appropriately. So again, make sure that you're in the directory where you've got all of these files. If you don't have that working directory set appropriately, either using setwd or by using a project like I described in one of the earlier videos, you're going to get an error that it can't find the file, and it's not going to work. And that can be a little bit frustrating and confusing when you're new to R. Okay, so let's just go ahead and pop open the day 9 instructions. So today we're going to explore some of the data that we loaded in yesterday's exercise. First of all, you want to make sure that it's loaded. If it's not, then you can go back to the day 8 file and run that command, or if you saved your script, you should still have it available. We're going to go ahead and make sure that it's loaded into this object called sl.dat. And the instructions say, let me close that. We can run a few different commands, call names, row names. Let's just go ahead and start pasting those in. And then we'll talk about what each one does. And then we'll do this one. A little bit slow to have to copy and paste these each individually, but in just a second, and then we will talk about them. Okay. So as you can probably guess from the name of this function, column names, it should return the column names. If we run that, we can see in our console we get the column names, which are name, kilometers per carat, bag space, deer power, etc. You can see those match up with sort of what we got from the str function in yesterday's exercise. Similarly, if we run the row names, we will get a list of the names of the rows. Now this might surprise you a little bit because you might expect the row names to be this name in the first column of the data. But by default in R, that's actually not true. The row names are just numeric in order of the rows that were loaded in generally. There are some cases where you will want to assign the row names to something else. We'll get to that when we need to. Let me see if she makes any other comments about this. Yeah, it just says it's not meaningful here, but it can be with other data sets. So exactly, in some cases you will have row names that mean something, but I think generally by default you prefer to have the name as a column because it's just easier to work with. By putting it in the row names, it can be hard to access when you need to get to that information. Okay, now there are a couple of different ways to access various rows and columns of the data. So if we run, let's see this first one where it's sl.dat and then a square bracket, a comma, and then a number. And the number is going to be the index of what we're going to access. In this case, I believe it's a column because I think the syntax is rows and then columns. And so this should be column 4, which if we look is column 1 is name, column 2 is kilometers per carat, column 3 is bag space, column 4 is deer power, and we can see here the first few values of the deer power column, 110, 110, 93, etc. And you can see now when we run sl.dat and we access the 4th column, we get all of those deer power values, including a NA at the end. So something seems to be missing at the end. We can also access a row by putting a number in front of that comma. So here it's sl.dat 5. Let's just run that with Control Enter. And now we can see we extract a single row from the data set. It's printed on a few lines, which can make it confusing to read. I think if I stretch this out, Let's try and see if that fixes it. Okay, so if I just stretch my window out to the right, it'll all print on one line. And now you can see the first number here is the index of that row, or the row name, which is 5. And then we have the column names are still here, so you kind of understand what each of the values are. But we just get the values for that one row of data. Now if you want to get a specific value, in other words, row 5, column 3, you can just put those numbers on each side of that comma inside of the square brackets. So in this case, it's going to be the same row, row 5. Column 3 should be this backspace, and we should get 360 when we run it. So we're going to put our cursor on the end of the line, hit Control Enter, and you can see we get back that single value, 360. And so this is a way to access by sort of index or number specific values, rows, columns, etc. in your data. In future exercises, I'm sure we're going to talk about some other ways you can access those values that are a little more intuitive. But for now, I'm going to wrap up this video and keep it nice and short. If you have any questions, please ask in the comments. Otherwise, I will see you tomorrow.